Oh, that's the topic of tonight's class.
Is it?
Yeah. Amazing. It's a miracle.
How'd you know that, Kim? That's pretty good.
I was here last week.
Miracles of miracles.
All right.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody to week 4. We're actually on chapter 5 because we did a double dose a couple weeks ago. Tonight's learning is in the merit of Aviva Galia Basima, who I've heard is making some good improvements, so that's great to hear. Just to kind of recap where we've been in the previous few weeks and how that leads into tonight's class. It's the last chapter of this section, so we're going to have some, it's going to come full circle a bit, and it'll be a good place to kind of move on to next week's class, which is going to be fun. Tonight's class is going to be a bit more of intellectually challenging, and there's actually no gematria, none of the numerics come into play tonight, but there is logic. So if anyone has studied logic, you are going to enjoy this. And the question is, what does logic have to do with religion, right? So we're going to talk tonight about the 10 Commandments, which we've been working our way through, and we're also going to talk about miracles and faith. So the question, from where we are now is, we said all the commandments are equal. There are no big ones, no little ones. We went through the 10 Commandments, and we learned that there are no such thing as 10 Commandments. There are 10 sayings, and those 10 sayings, utterances, are really just categories for all of the other 603 additional commandments. But then you could ask the question, why were the 10 given? And that's the title of chapter 5 that we're going to do tonight. And specifically, why did God have to give these 10 categories? Why single out one type of law over another when it could lead to misinterpretation, which is something that we've been concerned about? But to answer that question, he writes, we must go one step further to fully comprehend the role of the Decalogue in Jewish thought and to understand how this defines the uniqueness of Judaism and differentiates it from all other religions. So I'm just going to repeat the kind of disclaimer that I gave in week 1, because we are going to be doing a little bit of comparative religion. And doing that comparison, I think, makes important distinctions about Judaism. But the intent of Rabbi Blech, who is the author of this book and my teacher, and myself in trying to transmit it accurately, is not to demean or put down any other religion. It's just to draw distinctions. So I hope I can succeed in doing that as well as he does in the book. So the question is, why should we believe Moses more than any of the others who claimed to have received entirely different messages from God? Right, so we're gonna come back to the 10 Commandments. It's going to be central to the resolution of this issue. But why do we believe? So, okay, well, Moses said this, and we follow Moses. Well, we're here in Utah. There's somebody else that people believed, and that became a religion. And Jesus had his religion, and Moses is just like another charismatic leader who said these things, and this is what God told me, and you should follow them. But the Jewish philosophers were concerned about that logical flaw, which is, why are we just telling everyone to believe in Moses and believe Moses was telling the truth? And the answer to that question is, we are not, and we will see that in tonight's chapter. Maimonides, so we talk about the Jewish philosopher, Maimonides is one of the big ones. And he wrote, the Jews do not believe because of Moses. Built into the Bible is a warning concerning the possibility of fraud spoken in the name of God. So the Bible was pretty smart to say, hey, other people may try this and say, God told me to say this, God told me that you have to do that. And continuing with Maimonides, the Almighty knows that there will always be people who might prevail upon others because of certain talents. Charisma convinces some. Magic has powers over others. What if an accomplished soothsayer, diviner, or psychic would claim that his or her abilities confirm divine stature and partnership? there have always been people who can say, God told me directly, and they can say that in a very convincing manner. So there has to be some, if Judaism is not only faith, but as we'll see tonight, there's some rationality and logic to it. What is the rational approach to that challenge? That, okay, we've got the Bible, but now, Joseph Smith is going to come along and say something, or some other charismatic leader who has talents and knows how to communicate effectively and persuasively and may be a little bit out there enough that people believe them. What's to prevent that from happening in Judaism? And since God was able to see into the future when putting out these laws for us, it was something that was built into the Torah. How does God do that? There are numerous points in the Bible that talk about this. It says, when you come to the land which the Lord your God has given you, you shall not learn to do like the abominations of those nations that preceded you in the land. There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through fire, or one who uses a divination, a soothsayer, an enchanter, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or one who consults ghosts, or a familiar spirit. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord, and as a result of those abominations, God is driving them, the Canaanite nations, out from before you, from the land. You shall be wholehearted with the Lord. Most significant of all, and this is the quote, if there arises in your midst a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and he gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder comes to pass, whereof he spoke unto you, saying, let us go after other gods that you have not known, or let us serve them, you shall not listen to that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all of your soul. In other words, if someone uses a miracle to confirm that he speaks in the name of God, you may not listen to him. It's merely a test of faith. And, we read in the Bible all of these stories, right, of the Jews were miraculously taken out of Egypt and the sea was split. And so many miracles that I always thought were the basis for our belief. Now, if I said to the people in this room, God told me that you should be a vegan, you would say, okay, well, Jeff, you're crazy. Maybe you want us to all be vegan, but God didn't say that. And I say, no, really, this is why. I love red meat. We had steak last night. It was delicious. I don't want to become a vegan. But God told me this, and I know God told me this, that you all have to be vegan. And you still may not believe me, but if God wanted you to be a vegan, he would shut the lights off in the class. Okay? Are you going to be a vegan now? Okay, God, you can put the lights back on.
There you go.
That's not enough to convince us. That's a trick. And whether it was done by Jesus or Joseph Smith or anybody in the future, those are tricks. And we are going to study tonight that our belief in the Torah is not based solely on a trick. There's a lot more to it than that. And built into the Bible is don't believe when someone says, God told me this, and you don't believe me, I'll do a miracle. So then that leaves an important question. So why do we believe? Why did Jews believe? If we can't rely on the miracles, which I always thought that was like pretty good proof, right? Okay, it wasn't some game someone was playing. These were real miracles. In the words of Maimonides, Moses, our teacher, was not believed by Israel because of the signs that he did. For one who believes on the basis of signs or miracles has in his heart doubt. For it is possible that these signs or miracles can be done by means of magic or witchcraft, or adding to Maimonides, getting Steve in the back of the room to play a little trick on us, right? It's very easy to do. And built into our belief system is that we do not believe any of that. Miracles prove nothing. And here's I'm going to read a paragraph here that really lays it out in, I think, a pretty logical way. Miracles can be what the French call trompe-l'oeil, fool of the eye, a reference to optical illusion. Miracles can be deceptive. In the realm of medicine, they may be nothing more than psychosomatic cures or placebos. One dare not use miracles to verify contradictory claims of faith. Because, as it has well been said, if miracles could be used to prove the truths of one religion, they could similarly be used to prove the truth of all religion, for every religion has miracles within its catalog of convincing arguments. Hence, logically, if miracles prove all faiths, which in fact contradict one another, they must be rejected as proving none. So just let that sink in, that we're not going to buy into miracles. So again, he writes about a distinction between Judaism and Christianity. The Gospels record the miracles performed by Jesus at length, and they play a significant role in Christianity. The wondrous acts of Jesus, such as reviving the dead, healing the incurable, transforming water into wine, are meant to serve as cogent evidence not only of his divine authorization, but of his divinity. The virgin birth and the resurrection are not only major events, but also fundamental articles of belief. This, despite the specific warning in Deuteronomy that if there arise in your midst a prophet or a dreamer, etc., that you shouldn't believe him. So there's a story told in the Talmud that kind of hammers home this idea. Rabbi Eliezer was trying to convince his colleagues of the correctness of his opinion. He performed a number of miracles, including moving a carob tree 100 yards as proof of his opinion. The rabbi shrugged it off with the observation that one does not adduce proof from a carob tree. When he caused water to flow backwards and even the walls of the house to incline, they were still not convinced. When finally a heavenly voice proclaimed that he was right in his opinion, they were still not convinced. Quoting the passage from Deuteronomy, they said, "If the Torah is not in heaven, the Torah was given to us on Sinai, and so we pay no heed to a heavenly voice." The Torah is with us. God gave it to us. It's almost, if I could make an analogy, when a painter does a painting and then says, okay, what do you guys think of it? The painter has given that painting up, and then it's really now up to the people who are interpreting that. And similarly, when Rabbi Eliezer was trying to interpret the law and say, here's my position, it's right, the miracles didn't convince the rabbis because they knew not to listen to miracles. And God gave us the Torah, and there are uncertainties in how we interpret it, and there are divisions. That's the whole Talmud. We talked about the Mishnah and the Talmud, and the Talmud argues over what the Mishnah meant. That's the right way for us to do it, because the Torah is not on heaven. It was in heaven. God gave it to us, and he gave it to us for us to interpret the best we can based on our tradition and based on our methodology for figuring it out.